What if Madame Eva isn't the sweet, helpful old Vistana that you think she is? What if she is a far worse evil than Strahd von Zarovich? Before I lay Madame Eva's secrets on the table, go ahead and click subscribe to stay in the loop with us, and let's go over another big change that ties up some loose ends and sets the stage for our Madame Eva stuff. Now, we've all heard of the March of the Dead, right? It's the procession of ghosts that walk from the cemetery in the village of Barovia all the way up to the castle where they throw themselves off the tower. It's a neat little bit of world building and foreshadowing of what could happen to your PCs if they fail, but otherwise it's pretty useless. Let's give it a purpose and tie up some loose ends, shall we? Enter the Heart of Sorrow, that big pulsing organ at the top of Strahd's castle. What does it have to do with the March of the Dead? Well, after climbing a zillion steps inside Castle Ravenloft, these ghostly figures aren't yeeting themselves off the side of the tower. No. Instead, they're marching straight into the Heart of Sorrow where they're absorbed as energy for the heart. Rules as written, the heart grants Strahd a 50 hit point buffer. The March of the Dead is said to have 100 members, so each of them are worth half a hit point. My parties tend to hit really hard, so I like to bump the heart's buffer up to 100 just to give an even 1-to-1 adventurers to hit points ratio. So what does this do for us? Well, aside from giving the March of the Dead a reason for existing beyond spectral cliff diving, it gives your PCs an alternate way to defeat the heart. As they're climbing the tower stairs, if it's nighttime, cue that ghostly procession of dead adventurers. Your PCs can try to interact with these ghosts and perhaps snap them out of their daze and get them to walk away from the heart instead of into it. If any members of your party were killed during the adventure, have them show up here. This can make for some great, heartfelt moments between current and past party members and grant players some closure. Aside from those warm and fuzzies, convincing the ghosts to walk away from the heart deprives it of energy. That heart is useless without those spirits, meaning that Strahd doesn't get his hit point buffer anymore, and your party is one step closer to victory. Speaking of ghosts and hearts, today's video is brought to you something that is spooky and close to my heart. My book. That's right, I'm publishing a book, Libris Nocturnum, which is available on Kickstarter right now. This thing is fully funded at the moment, so it is 100% happening. Libris Nocturnum contains over 250 pages of horror adventure one-shots that you can run independently, or you can string them together as one really long horror campaign. They range from level 0 to level 12, so there's something in here for pretty much every group. It also contains over 30 new and original horror monsters, and if we can reach our first stretch goal, that's gonna bump up to over 50. So check out the Kickstarter using the link in the description below, and you can even download yourself a sample adventure just to try it out. With all that said, let's touch on Madame Eva and what's going on with her. First off, let's recap who she is in the actual module. Madame Eva is a 70-something-year-old Vistana whose real name is Katerina, who is the secret half-sister of Strahd because King Barov couldn't keep it in his pants around Vistani. She used to work as a maid in Castle Ravenloft, but then she ran away when he vamped out, and then she met up with Mother Night and got a deal for some really long life and some powers, which she now uses to summon adventurers who are either going to kill Strahd or redeem him and free the land. Now let's throw all of that away and start over. First, our new Madame Eva isn't related to Strahd at all, and she never worked in his castle. She is also older than you'd think. A lot older. Madame Eva is vampire. She's the vestige that Strahd freed from the Amber sarcophagi. Check out the Amber Temple video for more details on that. I recommend dropping some not-so-subtle hints about this into the Tome of Strahd and into Strahd's monologues. When he busted vampire out, Strahd and the Dark God made a deal. Afterwards, when everybody got locked away by the dark powers, Vampire took on a human disguise, that of a 70-something-year-old fortune teller. Why? Well, gods are weird and their ways are beyond our understanding. Maybe it's for kicks, or maybe it's because everybody trusts sweet old ladies. Or maybe because, as a Vistana, she can get things in and out of the mists. Like adventurers. Whatever the underlying reasons, our Madame Vampire has two concrete goals. First, get out of Barovia by getting Strahd killed. Second, devour some souls, as dark gods do. In order to get Strahd killed, Madame Vampire needs to get some new blood into Barovia. Enter the Tarokka deck and all of those adventurers that she invites in. Getting cozy with the Vistani gives Madame Vampire a great way to get her messages out and the adventurers in. In regards to devouring souls, if you've watched our other videos about dark gods in the Amber Temple, you know that they eat souls. You also know that when they pick a champion, e.g. Strahd, the soul of anybody that the champion kills is devoured by the god. So on the one hand, Vampire wants Strahd to kill as many people as possible, preferably strong ones like the adventurers that make it to his castle. On the other hand, Vampire wants those adventurers to kill Strahd so it can be free to roam the multiverse once again. It's quite a dilemma that makes for a rather uneasy alliance. But what's to stop Vampire from hamstringing Strahd and getting him killed by a level 1 adventurer? Probably the fact that Strahd is strong, smart, and knows that this dark god's got it out for him. So whoever Vampire sends up against him needs to be smart, strong, and highly capable. It's only by putting adventurers through the gauntlet of the campaign that Madame Vampire can be sure that they're made of the right stuff, and by pointing them towards the items of power and giving them a fated ally, they're all the more prepared. If they die by Strahd's hand, then that's just a nice yummy snack. If they succeed on the other hand, freedom! It's a win-win scenario for our dark god of blood. In order to better protect himself from Madame Vampire's machinations, Strahd came up with the Heart of Sorrow. It's grown from that third winery gem, or wherever you feel like it came from, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that Strahd has cast some sort of spell that traps the strongest souls who die in his domain and binds them to the heart. These are the ones in the March of the Dead who give him that hit point buffer every day at midnight. So what happens with Madame Vampire when Strahd dies? Well, at that point, she shows up in the guise of Madame Eva and congratulates the party. But she knows that they know, and she knows that they know that she knows. You know. Anyway, at this point, the players and you have a choice to make. Either they can continue their journey and bind the Dark God back into its amber prison, or they can accept the Dark God's offering to become vampires just like Strahd, or they can just let Vampire disappear off into the night. I personally prefer that last option because, well, it's simpler, it's faster, and you can bring Vampire back in some later campaign. Because if there's one thing that you want to kick down the road, it's a fight with a feisty old Vistani woman that also happens to be an immortal dark god.